And this is something that I'd like to ask you about, because these, the interviews you are getting, Seth Godin, Richard Branson, your mate Tony Robbins next week, Oprah and Deepak Chopra's, people are trying to, vie for cover space. Talk us through your process for getting these interviews.
Good question. So many people ask me this. I think when you have a magazine, and I didn't realize it took me a while to realize it, but when you have a magazine, that has a lot of weight compared to a podcast or a blog. And people take you very, very seriously, especially if you can show them that you've had Richard Branson, you've had Ariana Huffington on your magazine. So you actually vetted. When you have some big names already, you're actually pre-vetted. So when you pitch these people, it's actually a lot easier. Like they don't even, most of the time, they don't even ask me readership numbers, Ed. They don't even ask me.
Who was your first big name? Who was you?
So we landed Richard Branson for issue number 8.
So take us through that story, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, that's fine for Nathan. Nathan gets all the big names, and he's got so it's easy for him now." It wasn't always easy. So let's. How did you get that first big? Obviously, Richard saw me on the front cover and said, "Oh my goodness, if Ed Dale is on the front cover." But in all seriousness, take us through that first big get, because I think that's something that a lot. Yeah, everybody has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's right. So this one I actually learnt from another magcaster. So she, in fact, her name's San. She, in fact, interviewed Richard Branson for her magazine, but she doesn't really publish it anymore. I only got as far as 2 issues. So I contacted her, and I wanted to find out how she did it. And we became friends. We helped each other out a lot. And she actually gave me the contact for Sir Richard Branson. And that was Sir Richard Branson's head of PR. Yeah. So that process was quite easy, but the other ones I can take you through as well, because there's a lot more to it.
So in that particular case, you saw somebody who you knew who had actually gotten an interview with Richard Branson, so you were able to ask them, well, who did you speak to? Which is a very valuable lesson in and of itself, I think.
Yes.
So you were able to do that. Were there any discussions about he was going to be on the front cover or anything like that? Did you offer any of those things, or was it just did you have to give a pitch, or what was the detail of it?
So I got the phone number, and this was Richard Branson's head of PR.
Yep.
So she was the head of PR for Virgin. So that was the person I needed to speak to, the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
All of these people have gatekeepers. They're the people that say yes or no in between. And I called her up on the phone. I'll never forget that day, because I placed so much. For me, it was quite a big deal.
I can imagine.
I was like, I need this really badly. I want to take Founder to the next level. I need this. And I called her up, and I remember she's in the UK, and I never forget, I was stumbling, nervous as all hell, probably a lot nervous than our first interview together. And as you can imagine, I was just all over the place. And I remember just saying, "Hey, my name's Nathan from the magazine that doesn't exist anymore, and I'd like to interview Richard, this and that." And she said, "Okay, have you sent me an email?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Well, please understand that we get these requests at least 10 times a day. Just shoot me through an email." And because at first I said, "Do you have a couple of minutes to chat?" And she's like, "I've got about 1.5 minutes. I'm about to jump onto the tube."
Yeah.
And I was just stumbling as all hell, delivered my pitch, and she said, "Okay, well, just send me an email." And honestly, after I got off the phone, I thought, no chance it's going to happen. I still sent through that email, and it was a really, really good email.
Yep.
And I played on the fact that Sir Richard Branson's first business venture was a magazine.
Yep.
And look, I just pitched, and she come back to me about 2 weeks later, and she said, he'd love to do it. I pitched for a Skype interview, but she said, as you can imagine, he was really busy and he's traveling a lot.
Yep.
So the best we can offer is email, and I pitched for a front cover story.
Yeah.
And that was the process. Then I worked through with his team. So I, got one of my writers to work through this I guess feature with me. And funnily enough, she's this girl I worked with at the company I used to work for. She used to actually know Richard Branson's daughter. They went to school together. And so she was perfect, and Richard Branson was one of her heroes. So I just got her to do a lot of the legwork, and me and her came up with questions. We sent them to Richard Branson's PR team. Richard Branson answered those questions. We turned that into an article, and then I worked with the PR team to get a whole ton of images. Once we've got the article, the images, and one image for the front cover, we come up with a title, a headline for the front cover, and then we craft out the feature, put in all the other articles within that feature, and then we give it to my designer, and then off to the races.
So that extraordinary, and I think a couple of the lessons to draw out of that was it wasn't just a simple email request, was it? It was You actually referred to the fact that look, his first entrepreneurial venture was a magazine too. That's stuff that's really, really clever, and that's really impressive. So fast forward to today, and what have you changed about your approach or optimized about your approaches now, today, compared to the very first one? So where you don't potentially have that first contact.
Yeah. A good one now that I do is I'll give you a good example of how we got Tony Robbins for this. I'm interviewing this Saturday. I know for a fact that Tony's got a book out at the moment that he's heavily publicizing and looking to publicize. So I just called up Tony Robbins on his website. You can call up his hotline or something and just speak to his customer service people, and then you just say who you are and what you do, and then they'll put you through to the correct person, and then you pitch the correct person. So fast forward to now, one of the biggest things that I do to get a lot of these interviews is I find out what that person wants. I got lucky with Richard Branson. The rest, it's all been purely strategic because I find out what that person wants. I find out how I can help serve them. Serve first, ask later. And look for a mutually beneficial value exchange. So, Tony Robbins wants to publicize his book. He wants more book sales, and we've got a decent sized audience now, especially with the younger generation. And it's a fair trade. I get 30 minutes of his time. I pick his brain. We feature him. And, hopefully in turn they will potentially promote us. And I don't expect that for them to promote us, but perhaps they might, and that'll be even bigger win for us. So that fast forward to now, that's how I approach this. So I always look for what that person wants.
That's great stuff. Now, take us through planning your magazine out. Do you have a calendar, or do you have a theme? Take us through, sort of, say, the next issue that you've got coming. How far in advance do you plan it? Take us through that.
I'm getting a lot better now. Last year I was only planning a couple months ahead. This year, I said to myself, I'm going to go for whoever I want to interview, and I'm going to just back it up till the end of this year. So we've got our editorial calendar booked up until October this year now. So I just keep pitching, and I'm always I love consuming content. I love this space. It's something I'm very passionate about. So I'm always reading, consuming content. So I know what's around the corner. Another good little trick is you can see in Amazon the pre-order list on books. So you can see 3 months down the road who's got a book coming out. And from there you can prepare if you want to put that person in your magazine or whatever, or you want to interview them. So if you get them early, then it's more chance that you'll be able to interview them. So for me, for example, I've got just an Evernote note with our editorial calendar fully mapped out each month. We do usually about 3 to 4 features per issue, one for the front cover. And I just start pitching, and I'm always pitching. It's just something that I proactively do now. And I have a list of names of certain people that I want to talk to specifically, a super targeted list, and I just start working through that list slowly but surely. And then sometimes now people come to me that I in fact want to interview, and then sometimes now I can't even put them in the magazine. I put them in the podcast, and yeah, I just keep filling that calendar.